meeting prior to this, it ran a little bit over, so we got started here late, but apologize. So I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Jeff Elshoff. Here. Dr. Joel Schroeder.
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith.
Here.
Mr. John Welch.
Present.
Miss Diane Nguyen. Here. And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening we have Dr. Rob Lindstad from Sunrise Christian Academy to lead us in prayer. Dr. Lindstad.
Let's pray. Father God, we come to you and we're so thankful for the freedom that we have. Thank you, Father, for our country. And we thank you for salvation through the death of Jesus Christ, his blood shed and his resurrection. Father, we really look forward to the springtime when the grass turns green, the trees bud and bloom, the flowers grow. Father, it's really a great time for us as a community to enjoy our children and our families. And so we thank you for that freedom. Father, we pray for protection for our policemen, our firefighters. We pray, Father, for clarity of mind for our leaders, that they'll make decisions that will allow us to live peacefully. Father, we think of so many in the world that are hurting. Think of even so many of my friends in our school in Burma. We pray for them and all they're going through, and others in our country. So, Father, we thank you. We don't take for granted the prosperity and the great freedom, the great liberty that we have. And so, Father, we pray that as we come together as a community, as our leaders make decisions and plans, we pray, Father, that you'll direct them so that we can live peaceable lives. Father, we pray that we might treat one another kindly and fairly. What a privilege it is to live in this day and time when you've given to us so much. So we thank you for all that we have, and we give you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this evening, I'd like to introduce Sunrise Christian Academy's men's basketball coach, Mr. Luke Barnwell. Mr. Barnwell. Coach Barnwell. So, thank you. Coach Barnwell won the 2021 Jersey Mike's Naismith High School Coach of the Year Award. And those of us who follow basketball know of James Naismith and as the inventor of basketball and the founder of basketball program at KU. So earning this national award is a very high honor. It's unfortunate Sunrise didn't win the national championship this last weekend, but they are in good company. Gonzaga could pull off the NCAA championship either after going 31-0. But it's still a great season, beating the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country, ending the season 21-4, and is a great accomplishment. It's also a great honor to have such prestige here in our hometown of Bel Aire. So I have a proclamation to read, as well as a presentation for Coach Barnwell. So, to the citizens of Bel Aire, Kansas, greetings. Whereas the governing body has the opportunity to pause from its legislative duties to recognize those who have made a unique impact on this community, and whereas Sunrise Christian Academy was founded in Bel Aire by Dr. Robert Lindstad in 1983 and has grown to over 500 students, and whereas Sunrise Christian Academy of Buffalo's basketball team is ranked number 3 in the country from the Freelance League, and whereas Luke Barnwell has been head men's basketball coach since 2015, and whereas Luke Barnwell received the 2021 Jersey Mike's Naismith High School Coach of the Year Award, I therefore, Jim Benaj, Mayor, do hereby congratulate Luke Barnwell for his 2021 Naismith High School Coach of the Year Award and wish him and the SCA basketball team the best of luck for the 2021-2022 season. Cover the protocol.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yep. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe Dr. Lindstad would like to make a comment.
It's a great privilege for us at Sunrise to be able to represent the state of Kansas and Sunrise at the national tournament. It was called the Geico National Tournament. 10 top teams in the nation were there. And so it was just a really fun time to be together. But the thing that impressed me is that Luke is interested in more than just the X's and O's on a basketball drawing board, more than just wins and losses. When we went to Fort Myers to play in the national championship, and one of our students came down with COVID. So we had to put him in the hotel room and confine him. And his roommate also had to be confined during that time. So when it was over, while the rest of us would fly back to Wichita, Coach Luke said, well, someone's got to drive him back. We can't put him on the plane. So 2 hours after he coached in the national championship game, he was on the road driving 22 hours back to Bel Aire because he had his player, and he didn't want to sign that job to anybody else. He drove his player back to Kansas 2 hours after playing in the national championship. I think that's the kind of coach I want coaching our students. I think that's the kind of coach that shows that a basketball player is more than just a person that gets on the court and scores a basket, but he's an important person. So I thought you would enjoy knowing a little background story of that. Thank you.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Next item on the agenda is to determine agenda additions. Are there any additions to the agenda? Gosh, I hope not, because there's enough on it. If you got them, you got them. Okay, I hear none. I'll go on and move on. Item 7. The consent agenda contains only the minutes of the March 16th City Council meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Welch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 8 is discussion and approval of appropriations ordinance. During this period, there are a few city hall water flood related expenses totaling about almost $32,000. There will be more to come, but insurance will cover most of the cost. Bond interest payments totaled $106,346. Also had some capital projects.
Mr. Mayor,
Also,
I motion that we approve appropriations ordinance 21-06.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Elsoff and a second from Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 9, city requested appearances. I believe we have Garver Engineering is handling the construction inspection for the utility relocation project along Woodlawn and is here to give us an update.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, city council members, city staff. I'm Dakota Zimmerman with Garver. Behind me is Eric Strecker, our observer on site for this project. Just want to swing in and give you guys an update what's going on. Good news, project started. I'm sure most of you have noticed with the traffic control down Woodlawn, so that's really good news. We are going forward. It did have a slight delay at the beginning with that winter snap we had in February, but as soon as they were able to get in there safely and get going, they were able to. I was going to cover a few things, the status update, safety topic, and just communication in general, which is always the second best behind safety. Status update, majority of the sanitary sewer items are completed. There's a few more left to do, and we're looking at those items compared to the KDOT portion, the road job as well. Make sure we're doing stuff right now with that in mind. They're working on Waterline 1 south of the railroad tracks on the west side of Woodlawn. And then they actually wrap that up today, south of the tracks. They're going to move north of the tracks next week. So next month time frame, you can expect more Waterline items working in that area. And then that will eventually jump over to the east side of Woodlawn and carry further north. And then as far as schedule-wise, they're pretty much on track, with utility relocations. If you were to have one superpower, it would be X-ray vision, see below the ground. So as far as what we got, it's going pretty good. Communication's been really good, and I'll cover that soon. But 25 to 75 working days used so far. So they're about third way done, just to kind of get everyone an idea of that. Safety item. Traffic control has been up for a little over a month now. That first week, you do get responses and people see it. You kind of watch the drivers, pedestrians go through, see how they react to it. So we made a few adjustments that first week. But since then, we haven't had too many concerns or complaints. But that's something Eric drives every morning. Make sure no cones are knocked down, signs are blown over, because safety is number one priority, regardless of the project. So that's going pretty well. Excuse me. Donlinger is cleaning up at the end of every work shift, cleaning mud off the streets, stuff like that. It's a tight corridor. So they're doing their part to keep it clean. Cars aren't driving by and flinging stuff up to the best of their ability. Lastly, I like to cover is this communication. Like I said, that's the second best thing. I'm pretty proud of the communication between all parties, Wichita, Bel Aire, Donlinger, MKC, ourselves. That's huge on these projects that everyone's talking. Like I said, there's a lot of unknowns when you start digging in the ground. So the more people are discussing things, the more likely it's going to go pretty smooth. We have a few large valves that need to get replaced that will impact some citizens. So we're talking about how to stage that out, how to do that at night, stuff like that. But those conversations have already begun and they will continue. So that's the most efficient, clean way of doing it. So minimize impacts as much as possible. Last thing is, like I said, everything's going good. It's on track. Donlinger's thinking of ahead, thinking of items that while we're in here, can we go ahead and do this? Can we do that? And we're talking about that with Bel Aire and as well, make sure that's things we want to do and think about. And while we're opening the ground, get it taken care of. But in a short, sweet version, that's kind of the update. I will stand for any questions if you guys have any at that point.
I have one. It's just really a curiosity. I noticed a steel plate across one of the culverts that you had to open up. Is that going to stay there for a while, or is that what's the plan for the steel plates?
I would assume that's getting taken care of pretty soon.
Right, it's only a temporary.
Well, I knew that.
It's temporary, obviously, and when the weather's conducive for replacing the temporary asphalt patch.
Okay.
And no more than a week. I mean, Donlinger's pretty good about getting those taken care of. And getting out of the way.
Good.
We had and you may see more of that. We had a discussion on site with everybody. With those culvert pipes where existing utilities are, some of these areas we call to bore underneath some of those entrances. And so with the room available, we may not be able to do that with the soil we're in, the groundwater we have here. So there may be more of those open cut across the drives, but then we'll put steel plates down. And as soon as they're able to get it backfilled and get asphalt back down. So, and they've been really good about communicating to the tenants and everything, making them know in the game plan so they don't show up to work one morning and there's a big old driveway torn apart. So trying to keep that communication going live so everyone's involved. I know construction can be a headache, but the more we talk about it, the more we make people know about it, the easier it can go.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Dakota Zimmerman?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the update, and please keep us informed. This progress. Next item is citizens' concerns. Do we have any citizens this evening that would like to speak? Hearing none, I'll move on to council member reports. Dr. Schroeder, would you like to start with council member reports?
I have no report.
Mr. Elsoff,
I have no report, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Welch,
I have no report.
Ms. Nguyen.
Mine's the same as last week.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to provide just a brief report on the CCUA meeting from March 25th. I did attend that along with Councilmember Elshoff and the mayor. We did get the opportunity to meet the new utility manager for the CCUA. And so it's exciting to have that position filled. At that meeting, we did continue the discussion on the large upgrade that's going to happen at the CCUA plant on the sewer side, which is quite an extensive project. We were advised that that project's cost is going to be driven up significantly by some new requirements from the EPA regarding discharge limits. And so we were advised that that project's cost is going to go up by about $1.5 million that wasn't previously expected. And so that's a pretty substantial increase, and it has to do with the amount of solid nitrogen and phosphorus, I believe, that are part of the outflow from the plant. And as you increase the plant's capacity, you're not allowed to increase the amount of total outflow of those substances from the plant. Whereas previously it was ratio based, now it's an absolute volume. And so the plant has to get better at removing those elements from the outflows of the plant. So we spent quite a bit of time discussing that and getting advised on the implications of that. But at the end of the day, it's going to drive that project cost up significantly. And so I thought it was important to share that with everyone here and with the citizens so that we can plan appropriately for that. We also did spend quite a bit of time discussing an incident that happened near the Park City plant with a main sewer line break. There was a Park City request for the CCUA to cover some of the costs associated with that line break. And through that discussion, we determined that it was appropriate for the CCUA to cover those costs, but it also was pretty clear to me, at least, that there isn't amazing ownership or agreement on what infrastructure is to be owned and maintained by the city of Bel Aire, the city of Park City, and the CCUA. And so I have talked with both our city engineer and our city manager about trying to take the lead on getting some better documentation and alignment on who is responsible for what with regards to that infrastructure moving forward, so that there's a little more clarity for all the organizations involved, because I see that as a pretty significant issue going forward. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I do believe there's some real opportunity for some improvement there. So great. Thank you. Okay. In my report, one piece of good news, on Friday, April 2nd, I signed the last UP Railroad contract that we needed for the Woodlawn project. So as far as I know, the UP Railroad is fully addressed now. So we're in good shape there. Our city engineer and MKC are making, maybe already have done so, final application to KDOT so they can start the bid letting process. But I know you're working on that, and maybe haven't been able to get that done yet, but I get it. Okay. So I really do want to thank our city manager, our city engineer, our city attorney, and MKC for getting us to this point in the project. Let's keep this going with a real sense of urgency. On March 18th, I did attend the Sedgwick County Association of Cities meeting via Zoom. As many know, SB 40 passed our state legislature, and basically, but not technically, prohibits the county from making health orders, as they are very easy to challenge with this bill. So we probably won't see any more health orders out of the county as a result of that. SB 13 also passed and does not appear to have addressed the concerns of overbearing unfunded mandate that we requested that they look at. So it looks like it will be 2022 before we have start sending out notices for revenue increases, even though taxes have not increased. I'm going to send a suggestion to the League of Kansas Municipalities to see if we can't get another legislative issue on next year's legislative agenda. So see if we can't get some reasonable relief from that. So, a Workforce One grant of $9.9 million was awarded for training in advanced manufacturing and high-tech jobs. So anyone interested in that should call Amanda Duncan, and I can give you that number if somebody's interested in that. There's also a youth employment project being started to aid youth in employment skills with things like attendance and personal presentation. So this is called an essential skills workshop, and a certificate can be earned. And I have a number with Alex Kofed if somebody would like to pursue that. Dorian Soto from Evergy says that we will not see any increases in electricity prices due to the cold snap in February. That doesn't mean your bill didn't go up because you used more electricity. It just means the price per kilowatt hour didn't go up. Okay. However, there could be an increase due to increased cost of energy this year that's reflected in our 2022 bills. So it's still may see some changes there. Yes, the SCAC is planning a tour of the River Park Baseball Stadium on May 20th. For those interested in this, the tour has been put off for over a year, something to do with the pandemic. So anyway, also the new casino in Park City and Amazon in Park City are hiring people. So if anyone is needing work, they should look into those opportunities. Also, March 23rd, the Public Building Commission met and we approved a letter to enter into negotiations on the sale of about 16 acres in Sunflower Commerce Park, which was presented to us by Scannell Properties. And while we do not know their intended client for this property, Scannell represents large national businesses. It should be exciting to learn another new business in the Sunflower Commerce Park in the near future. So BBC also met just prior to this meeting and approved bond sale that is on tonight's agenda for under item 12C. On March 25th, I attended the Chisholm Creek Utility Authority along with Councilmember Smith and Councilmember Elsoff. I won't try not to repeat the things that Councilmember Smith covered because he did cover a lot of good things like Mr. Coy being our utility manager. Good to have someone with several years of experience managing the facility at the helm of the CCUA. We talked about office improvements, put that off for the new manager to make proposals in the future date. We approved authorizing resolution for Series 2021 bonds to finance the pending sewer treatment expansion. And related to the incident of the emergent repairs due to the cold snap that Councilmember Smith talked about, and has also identified, and Stevens, our city engineer, has also identified another $5 million or $5,000, not million, $5,000 of sewage that we sent to Wichita as part of that same emergent repairs. So she'll be presenting that CCA meeting for approval. And lastly, Sarah, our interim manager, completed the CCUA equipment information inventory, which is a great accomplishment as it helps her and Jacob Coy know when they need something, whether they already have it on hand. And it's a pretty extensive inventory, so that's a good thing to have. And on Friday, April 2nd, I also attended the K254 Corridor Association meeting via Zoom. Our own Ty Lasher gave us a short summary of studies being done related to K254. KDOT is doing one for safety from Rock Road to El Dorado, and our Webb Road for interchange design study. There's also a presentation by the South Central Kansas Economic Development District, SCED, which is located here in Bel Aire. And I don't know how many of you know that, but it's over in our Sunflower Commerce Park. So they concentrate on 4 items: housing, weatherization assistance, grant writing, and lending. So if anyone's interested in rental assistance or weatherization information, they're a good resource that you could contact. They probably be of some help. By the way, the executive director of that is leaving, and so there's an opportunity for the right person at SCED as well, if somebody looking for an executive director type position. And then lastly, on COVID, looks like Sedgwick County is about flatline on the COVID infection rates, run 2 to 3% of those tested. Testing has slowed down a lot. It was at 4,500 a day, and now they're running about 1,000 a day. They were having about 550 positive tests a day, and the highest they've had in the last week was 49 on March 29th. Everything else is running lower, like in the 20s or 30s. So we're going in the right direction. We're doing the right things. We just can't let up. We need to keep vigilance on that. Kansas has opened up the experimental vaccine distribution to everyone 16 years older. Sedgwick County says they have unfilled appointments. So if you are interested in getting that vaccine, please schedule an appointment because they're available. So we are making good progress as vaccine distribution at, I think it's 30.7% is what I looked at today. I didn't update my note, but so we've got about 1.75 million doses. First dose is administered about 900,000 and second dose is about 478,000. So we're making progress. That's a good thing for the whole state. I did have my first dose on March 17th, and my second dose is for Thursday, April 8th. So I'll now ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have worked on getting the code online in a more user-friendly way. One of the major steps towards that was getting our most current ordinances incorporated into the code and accessible online. Our clerk did a lot to get that done, so we're glad about that. I'd also like to thank Councilmember Smith for supporting us as we've been talking to software companies who can move our entire code process online and make it so you can see prior versions and drafts. And it's a very user-friendly way to access the code, and we're hoping to present more information to council about that in a future meeting. But he was able to ask a lot of software-specific questions that would be very helpful to the city's use of it. Also wanted to give an update since we last met on SB 40 that was passed. Mayor covered a bit of that. It does extend the emergency disaster period until May 28th, 2021. It does make changes to the Kansas Disaster Act, Kansas Emergency Management Act, KEMA. And in that, it imposes due process procedures for anybody aggrieved by major changes that come through disaster executive orders or acts. So for instance, with school closures, it does provide due process to people who might be harmed by that, or closures or business harms. The legislature thought this would be a way to give business owners and citizens a chance to be heard when executive orders are flying and there's an emergency. They believe it's a good outcome from lessons learned through the first series of executive orders that came out through COVID. So now that process is codified. It also modifies civil penalties for violations to the act. Those civil penalties are in certain areas are now criminal penalties. So that's kind of a shift there. So that only impacts executive orders related to curfew or prohibiting public entry in areas affected by a disaster. So prior to that, those were only civil. So this kind of expands that. So it has done all that, but it also kind of changes the way the governor's executive orders are reviewed. So for instance, when the governor issued several executive orders after the March 31st orders expired, several of those orders that she issued were overturned by the Legislative Coordinating Council. So that's the group that will review executive orders. So she issued a mask mandate that was reviewed and overturned by that council. And that's how the legislature believes these orders should be reviewed in addition to that hearing process, that notice and hearing process. So SB 40 is very interesting. It does impact Bel Aire because we might see an executive order come out and then it might be overturned. And there is opportunities for people to get due process. Another bill that I wanted to go over is SB 13. This council, when SB 13 was being reviewed, wrote letters to the legislature asking for certain things. Two of the, as the mayor said, we didn't get everything we wanted, but two of the items were changed. One that this council said is they wanted all the, so this is the tax lid repeal bill. And council wanted all the organizations, whether city, school district, library district, whatever, to be treated fairly, equally. And prior, there were exemptions for school districts and other organizations that to this council didn't seem to make sense. They weren't explained. I don't know what influence did it, but all those exemptions were taken out. And now all the groups are at the same level as far as requiring notice and public hearing prior to increasing beyond last year's tax lid. So that was one thing that this council wanted. Another concern was the cost. And I think Mayor mentioned this as well, the undue burden on the cost of providing that notice. Cities would have to publish cities wanting to increase tax lids would have to pay for publication and notice. Well, the legislature has decided to offset those costs for at least 2 years. So until 2022, those costs are offset by Topeka. After that, cities will bear those costs. But that does give time, if this council believes it's a priority, to possibly revisit this piece of legislation in another session. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate it. Move on to city manager's report.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to announce that there is a Baton pre-construction meeting scheduled for Thursday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. And that will be at the rec center. All the residents living along Baton in this area that's going to be replaced will get notified. And at that meeting, the contractor will go over dates, how people will get to and from their homes, parking, those types of things, and an estimated timeline for that. So that's a positive because what's next is construction. And so that's going to be moving forward. The police department is working with the Drug Enforcement Agency on Drug Take Back Day. That's going to be Saturday, April 24th from 10 to 2 here at City Hall. So the goal of that is if anybody has unused prescriptions, rather than dumping them down the toilet or the drain, is to bring them in and they dispose of them properly. And then an update on our, once again, modified spring fling this year. Of course, Easter was this last weekend. What we did was we asked residents to stop by City Hall and pick up some Easter goodies, and we had 203 bags were given out, about 5,000 eggs, and they were filled with candy and things like that. We also started something new this year, was a medallion hunt, where there was people were to go around at different locations throughout the city and take a picture of an egg that was hid. And we had 3 families win. Lair family, Thomas family, and Keller family all won first, second, and third prizes. And that was fun. But our goal is for next year to go back to our egg hunt that's at the rec center. Those usually we give out about 10,000 or more eggs. So anyway, we're excited for that. There will be, if anybody drives by City Hall, April 15th through the 20th, we're going to be hosting or providing for a USD 375 Circle School District bond election. So part of Bel Aire is in Circle School District, and they are doing a bond issue for some school upgrades. And Butler County asked, since we have a lot of residents that their kids are in that school district, if they could hold the election here. So if people drive by and see election signs out there, unless they're in 259 wanting to vote on the school district bond, that's all it is. There's no other.
Not 259.
Not 259, 375. Yeah. So, but there's no other election going on. It's for that special bond issue. And then just a reminder that the citywide garage sales are coming up April 22nd through the 24th. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate it. There's a lot of exciting things going on. Good. Move on to item 12, which is the long one. It's got lots of stuff on it. But first item is Mr. Bruce Ropke is somewhat new to Bel Aire, and he would like to get more involved. And I believe he's here this evening. Good to see you here. So he does regularly attend city council meetings and has volunteered to serve on the tree board. This appointment has been a little long in coming as the tree board has not been meeting. So due to COVID, they finally met last month. So if you consider his appointment to tree board.
Mr. Mayor,
Dr. Schroeder.
I'll motion to confirm the mayor's appointment of Bruce Ropke to the tree board.
I'll second.
2 seconds, I'll take Mr. Welch. So I have a motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second by Mr. Welch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. Item B is consideration of amendment to development agreement with David Key. Land Bank and City approved a contract and development agreement with David Key to purchase 24 acres across from City Hall. The closing was set to occur on April 7th. Mr. Key is asking closing to be extended until July 14th and has added an additional non-refundable $10,000 to escrow. The Land Bank voted to extend the contract, and the city needs to approve the development agreement extension. The price doesn't change, so there is no negative financial loss. Are there any questions for our city manager or city attorney?
Mr. Mayor, it says the 15th on here, and you said the 14th, which is correct date.
I have two dates, so can you help us understand which is the correct date?
The correct date would be what's on the agenda.
July 15th.
15. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve an amendment to the development agreement with David Key and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Elsoff. Did I get that right? It was Dr. Schroeder.
Ms. Schroeder.
Thank you. I don't know. Your two voices, I just don't distinguish those well, so thank you. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item C, so due to the number of land sales with property owners by the Public Building Commission, funds are available to pay down some principal. In addition, interest rates are extremely low, prompting staff to explore financial savings. So Kevin Cowan, he's here from Gilmore Bell to explain the action and share the benefits. PBC met just before this meeting to approve this bond sale. So the PBC has already addressed this, and this is now ready for the city council. This is really exciting. This is a good thing that you get to have when you get rid of that, sell assets and take some money and pay down some debt, which frees up money for other things like roads.
That's right.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I might tee up Kevin just a little bit.
Okay.
As you know, we met in January, and I said there might be a great opportunity to refinance some land debt as well as take advantage of our recent land sales. You'll notice about 1.4 million is in PBC, which is a separate fund than our land bank fund. The PBC's in the 1st of May has a land payment due. What we're going to do is use that 1.4 and go ahead and retire principal on our current land debt service schedule, and then refinance once that service schedule comes back. Then it basically resets that debt service schedule, and then we'll refinance with that $1.6 million that we're going to bring in equity transaction with our land bank money. Why are we doing this? It's a pretty good question. It's because it's the best mechanism to use to get rid of the PBC money we have with our current, and then we start fresh with a new refinance with the 1.6. We're just bringing it as an equity contribution. The best news is right now with the interest rates the way they are and where we think they're going to be, it's a moving target. We might free up about $350,000 in our annual budget. As you know, we've been stretched thin for many years. Doing it this way helps free up the savings in this year versus why do we need to refinance? It's so we can take advantage of being able to structure our debt in out years versus just taking the money in the lump sum, and what it will do if we were to just take all this money to the current structure is it would basically pay off years 2035, 34 only. So we're not doing anything to the current structure. We're just removing a year, and that doesn't help us build better streets or anything that this council really wants. And from day one, we've said we wanted to, reduce land debt and also help out streets. And that's what you have before you today. Kevin has probably all the structural knowledge of what we're going to do, but I just wanted to give the 30,000 foot view of it. I started this job 5 years ago, and my first day was when my daughter Lucy was born here, and her and mom are watching tonight. So it's the first time she knows Dad's on TV. So I just want to say hi to Lucy.
Okay. Thank you.
As the mayor mentioned, we did have a discussion and approval of this at the PBC meeting, and some specific questions came up on structuring, and we were pressed for time a little bit. But I have been able to sort of piece together some of that if we want to dig down into the details. One of the things we talked about is that the estimated amount of bonds shown in your resolution before you is 13 million for, and the amount of bonds to be redeemed as part of the refinancing is 14 million for. And a large part, and we didn't get into this at the PBC meeting, that 14 million for is after application of the 1.4 in land sale proceeds on May 1st. So the 1.4 is definitely part of the big picture, but it's not part of the true sort of bond refinance. So the numbers we're talking about are the 13,440,000 in estimated bonds, and that will change a little bit depending on market conditions. But and then the 1.6 million in land bank equity funds, as we're calling it. So that totals 15,100,000 in total sources to refinance the 14,410,000 that will remain after the May 1 redemption date. So the way that will get used is 14,900,000 will go into the escrow fund, and we talked about negative arbitrage, which may cause some of you to fall asleep, but it's going to take 14,900,000 in that escrow fund to pay off the 14 million for a year from now. That's when those can be redeemed. So we have to fund this escrow, and that's going to cover the principal, 14 million for, plus about 500,000 in interest during the year. And then the other 200,000, I mean, that's 14,900,000 of the 15,100,000 are just the bond costs of issuance that we talked about, underwriting, compensation, and the other costs. So that's the detail. And again, the key point compared to the big picture discussion we had with the PBC is what we're refinancing is after a bond redemption on May 1st. And that 1.4 million in land sale proceeds will be used to make that redemption. And then the refinance will be after that. So beyond that, and I sort of started down this path, the way this will come about, we can't, or the city and the PBC can't redeem those PBC bonds for a year. The optional redemption date that's available for this sort of refinancing is built into the 2017 bond documents is that bonds can be redeemed on May 1st of 2022. That doesn't mean we can't do a refinancing. The way we do that is issue bonds and fund an escrow account, and that escrow account, if properly funded, will then make bond payments for the next year until May 1st of 2022, and then redeem all of those bonds. And the existing bond documents provide if you fund that escrow properly, those bonds are no longer outstanding obligations of the PBC or the city. Those bondholders can only look to the escrow to get paid. So once we close and fund that escrow, it's as if the 2017 bonds have gone away. They're no longer an obligation of the city, or the PBC, they're an obligation of the escrow. And so starting with that, the new bonds that Mr. Henry referenced in the lower interest rates is what you'll start with after we close. So kind of a technical refinancing, we call that an advance refunding, where we can't swap out new bonds for old bonds immediately. We have to wait a year before we can pay off the prior bonds, but the way we still accomplish the refinancing is to fund the escrow today. And with all those moving parts, because the interest rates are lower and we have this restructuring opportunity, they're still anticipated to be significant savings for the PBC and the city. And so that's why you'd want to consider this. And this is the kickoff resolution. This is saying, yes, we're interested in doing this. We're authorizing staff and bond counsel, financial advisor to do the things necessary to pull this deal together so that at a future date, we can come back and have a bond sale and establish those final details on the refinancing bonds.
Thank you for that explanation. I think that helped me understand a little better. Of course, I had the earlier explanation as well. So.
Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
So am I understanding that for the next year, we'll effectively be paying interest twice on the full amount? Is that how this
Well,
actually works?
There will be two series of outstanding bonds. You're correct, except technically not. The escrow will pay the interest. So you have to borrow now. But yes, there will be two sets of bonds and interest for that year. But again, the way we'll structure it is you won't be, or the PBC and the city won't be paying out of current funds for the next year because you'll have funded that escrow. And we talked about this a little bit in the PBC meeting. There will be some negative arbitrage, so to speak. The escrow, how you invest it, won't keep up with that accruing interest for a year. And so I referenced it earlier. That's why you have to put $14,900,000 in the escrow to cover $14,410,000 plus the accruing interest, because it'll accrue interest. I checked the rates. We were talking about somewhere from 3 to 5, and it's somewhere between 3 and 4 what all those rates are accruing for the next year, and the escrow won't get invested if you look at investment rates, you just can't get that. So you got to fill that gap.
So what's the thought in refinancing this year versus waiting a year until they're redeemable to do the refinancing?
It's market conditions. It's kind of bird in the hand. If you wait a year, interest rates may not be such that you can beat them. Your rates will be better. And the only real question in terms of whether you're going to save money is how much does it cost to fund that gap in the escrow where you got to keep up with that interest for a year. And so with that, there's still significant savings. And that's always the concern is, will that be true a year from now? Interest rates move around and maybe we can't beat the rates. The other thing, and Mr. Henry mentioned it, this is a way to put the $1.6 million to work right now from other land sales in a way that you control the structure. And he mentioned if you wanted to redeem bonds with proceeds from the sale of land, it's just a bond redemption now. And it's the way those 2017 bond documents work is if you're going to do that, it comes off the back end. So you save some interest over the next several years, and then your last payment will be much less. And this, again, allows you to control how do we want to structure this now. We're 4+ years beyond the last financing. We may have a better idea of now this structural will work. Maybe it's level debt service, and that's the restructuring is part of it as well. So saving money, and there's no guarantee you'll save money a year from now, depending on interest rates, and it allows you to do some restructuring now that maybe you could a year from now. You have to decide what you want to do with some of the land sale proceeds from the land bank.
One of the things I do think Mr. Henry told me that this removes a step increase in debt service payments. So it'll be flat.
Yeah, the two main reasons I see what interest we get on that essentially $3 million right now, $1.6 million, and it's terrible as far as what cities can invest their idle funds in. So waiting a year is probably not the best financial decision on our end. We want to put that to work a lot sooner than a year. The other thing is the mayor had it right. So Series 2010, which was before the 2017 refinance, we were in such dire straits we couldn't really pay principal. So what we did is delayed principal until later, like 10 years, and then all of a sudden there was a $500,000 principal payment, and that we call that a balloon. So when we did it in 2017, we smoothed it, which means it escalated about $150,000 a year, and that's what I think we're in year 3 of that stair step. What this does is completely level it, actually brings it down. Whereas next year, I think our projected amount we were going to pay is $1.5 million. Now with all these steps, it would be about $1.15 million. So that's where we get the $350,000 savings per year is that. And then it stays level throughout and doesn't escalate up and down. So those two reasons are the big ones to do it now and not wait.
So do you believe that by refinancing now, we will overall pay less money than if we refinance a year from now?
I haven't done the math on that. I strongly say we will, only because I watch interest rates pretty well. I know the federal, they say nothing's going to happen in the next year or two, but if you watch the 10-year bond market, treasury bond market, it's pretty darn good right now. Probably the best we've seen. So taking advantage of that is also nice. We also, it's not much, but we do have some provisions in there that might scare bond buyers as far as, hey, we're able to redeem 7.7 million of this. They might not. That kind of ticks up the interest rate when we're a competitive bond sale. So those concerns, I can run the number, but I wouldn't suggest holding up the process right now. And I can let you know, but and I can have Adam, our financial advisor, look at that as well.
No, thank you for that. I think that makes sense, just to run the numbers to make sure. But I think what you said is this is just getting the process started. So we can go ahead and start the process while we wait for that information. Is that right?
Yeah, we had that small discussion in January, and I've had 5 meetings with Kevin, and it just, all this always takes a lot more time than everybody thinks. It looks like a simple process, but it's figuring out each paragraph and what we want to do. So
The one thing you didn't mention, which I think we know, is that we will still pay the bonds off at the same time as we previously would have.
Yes.
So we're not extending the bond payments at all. We're not shortening them. We're just lowering the amount by going through all this.
Yes, freeing up budgetary room. And if you remember my budget presentations, 35% of our budget goes to land debt. Land
I
costs.
just want to make that clear. for
And that's
our
very clear,
citizens.
yeah. So now it might be 33%. So good job. It's
take
not,
every bit.
it's a big portion of what we do on a year basis, and we're really chipping at it.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate Councilman Welch bringing that up, because it sort of sounded like when you said it originally, we're stretching this out so we can, save money now and we'll pay it all later, but that's not what you meant. And I understand that from our previous time together. So I appreciate you clarifying that, Councilman Welch, because we're going to hopefully be paying less overall money. We're not stretching anything out necessarily. So anyway, I appreciate that clarification.
Any other
I don't know
questions or
if there are any
discussion?
other questions. I was going to add, I think one of the things that's implicit in your analysis is you have to think about what will interest rates do, and nobody knows. I mean, I think we can say unequivocally, if interest rates were exactly the same 1 year from now, next year would be a better deal, because you don't have that interest you have to make up. But that's always the tricky part of this. And I think the market is probably betting that interest rates are going to rise as the economy picks up. And you see some of that in what the 10-year Treasury has done and what the pressures are on it. But again, that's always how I think about it. All things being equal, you're better to be able to redeem the bonds immediately. But nobody knows what interest rates will be a year from now.
How much do we want to gamble? Do we want to go to Park City and put some money on the table, or do we want to take the profit we can get now?
Well, and you're going to save some money. That's the way this is being structured. If rates moved in the next month or so and the sale results in a bad deal for you, then this deal doesn't get done, and we just monitor it, and maybe it gets done a year from now if interest rates cooperate. But it really is. Take the savings if you can get them now, and maybe not worry about what the market's going to do over the next year.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Welch.
I'll make a motion to confirm a resolution approving the sale of City of Bel Aire, Kansas, Public Building Commission taxable refunding revenue bonds, Series 2021, and authorizing a preliminary official statement for such bonds and related matters, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents.
I'll second.
We have a motion for Mr. Welch and a second for Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item D, consideration of resolution determining the advisability of making certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Air. So the developers of Rock Spring 3 and Skyview at Block 49 will have a shared sewer main. At our last meeting, council accepted the petition for the sewer main. Now the authorization for funding resolution comes before council for approval. The cost of the improvements will be special assessed to the benefiting lots in each subdivision. Are there any questions for our city manager or Kevin Cowan? No questions? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Dr. Schroeder.
I motion to accept the resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, sanitary sewer improvements / Rock Springs 3rd Edition in Skyview at Block 49, and authorize the mayor to sign.
A motion from Dr. Schroeder and a second from Mr. Welch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. So now, item E is the developer of Skyview at Block 49 is moving forward with public infrastructure installations in Phase 1. At our last meeting, council accepted a petition for these improvements. Now the authorization for funding resolution for Phases 1 and 2 come before council for approval. The cost of these improvements will be special assessed to the benefiting lots in each subdivision. So each resolution needs a separate action and are items E through N. So we've kind of gone through this marathon before, so others, if you want, I mean, if you're certainly welcome to ask questions about any particular one that you want to do as we go along, but it's just the marathon of votes, okay? So Kevin Cowan is here to explain the process and answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I'm often the one that asks this to be re-explained, and someday I'll probably have you re-explain it again. But it's a pretty long agenda tonight, so I'm ready to move forward. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements to the city of Bel Aire, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorize and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings. Paving improvements / Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second from Mr. Welch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion, all opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Item F, this has to do with the sanitary sewer improvements of Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Elsa.
I motion to accept a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, sanitary sewer improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Elsoff and a second by Ms. Nguyen. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item G has to do with sidewalk improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Welch.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, sidewalk improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Welch and a second by Mr. Elsoff. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item H, stormwater drain improvements for Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to accept a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, stormwater drain improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by a couple, but I'm going to take Ms. Nguyen because she's the one I heard clearly. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item I, this is the water distribution system improvements for Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to accept the resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings. Water distribution system improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 1, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second by Mr. Welch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item J, this has to do with paving improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Elsoff.
I motion to accept a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, paving improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Elsoff and a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item K, sanitary sewer improvement, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I
Welch.
make a motion to accept a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the mayor for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, sanitary sewer improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Welch and a second by Ms. Nguyen. All in favor, say, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item L is sidewalk improvements for Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to accept a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, sidewalk improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Dr. Schroeder. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item M, stormwater drain improvements for Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2.
Mr. Mayor,
Dr. Schroeder.
I motion to accept the resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings. Stormwater drain improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second by Mr. Welch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. And item N, water distribution system improvements to Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Elsoff.
I motion to accept a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, water distribution system improvements, Skyview at Block 49, Phase 2, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Elsoff and a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item O. So this is the landscaping berms were included in the final plat for Central Park 3 to screen the development from Central Park Avenue. Now a final development of Central Park 3, Phase 3, and the completion of Prestwick Avenue north to 53rd, it's time to complete the landscaping berms. The cost of improvements will be financed through the bond spread as special assessments against the benefiting lots. Several contractors were contacted for bids, but only Treetop Nursery submitted a bid. And Stevens is here to explain the project and answer any questions. And I do have a couple questions myself.
All righty. Well, as many people are familiar with the berms that are all located on the north-ish side of Central Park Avenue, this will continue those berms in the blue area on the screen up to 53rd Street.
So who's going to be responsible for maintaining these?
That is the Homeowners Association of
HOA
Central
is?
Park 3rd.
Okay. All right. That answered the only question. I had another question, but that doesn't apply.
I have a question. What size trees are these? Looking at the prices, are they like 3 or 4 inch caliper, or how big are they? I guess is what I'm really.
I'm not sure. I didn't review the plans before I came in. So it would just, I don't know.
Is
I
that a
can't answer
typical
that.
size we buy?
It varies. Probably anywhere from 1.5 inches to 3 or 4 inch trees are fairly standard. It just kind of depends. And unfortunately, I didn't review the plans before I came in, so I really don't have a clear answer tonight.
Mr. Mayor, just out of curiosity, you mentioned you request several bids. I know you always do that. Was that like 3 or 4? I mean, are we surprised you didn't get more bids on this?
We are surprised that we didn't get more bids. Baughman Company did the bid solicitation and the bidding on this project. They had quite a few comments from Cedars Incorporated, and I believe 1 or 2 other vendors or contractors. And yeah, they were very surprised that they did not get at least 1 or 2 other bids.
Mr. Mayor?
Dr. Schroeder.
I'll motion to approve the bid for the Tree Chop Nursery at cost not to exceed $55,256 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Schroeder and second by Mr. Welch. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. So, considering accepting a bid for Central Park 3rd Phase 3 and Prestwick Avenue paving improvements. So the developer is ready to begin paving the final phase of Central Park 3, Central Park 3rd. The project includes both the paving of Phase 3 of Central Park 3rd and completing Prestwick Avenue from the north roundabout to 53rd Street. The cost improvements to Central Park 3rd will be financed through a bond and spread of special assessments against the benefiting lots. The Prestwick improvements will be a city at large expense and paid for by general fund transfers to the bond and interest fund. 5 contractors responded and is here to discuss project and answer questions.
So similar project, a little bit different area. So we're paving the streets in here. A portion of Cambridge has already been paved. That will not be unpaved. They will continue from that portion and move forward. There was some, you could see some in the gray that is parallel to Central Park Avenue. That was a previous alleyway that had been constructed. That was removed as part of the stormwater drain project. So that is now gone. And the area had been replatted long before this project has ever been started, but that was a leftover from before it was replatted. So that's all gone. The Mount Bel Aire is gone. I'm sure everybody has seen the construction as they came into City Hall. We'll be paving the streets. We did offer both an asphalt option and a concrete option. Both of those were about 25 or more %. The asphalt was less than the concrete option. It would be my suggestion to go with the concrete option on Central Park Avenue, and then the asphalt option for the internal streets in the interest of kind of balancing where we're at as far as fund expenditures. Because Central Park Avenue is a much higher trafficked street, that is why my suggestion would be to go with the concrete, just less maintenance in the future.
Did you mean Prestwick was more traveled?
Or I'm sorry, Prestwick, you're right. Central Park Avenue kind of curves and Prestwick, yeah, it's a little confusing. But thank you.
My only question about that is, what is Central Park currently, the street? What is it currently? Is it asphalt?
It is currently asphalt, and we are starting to see deterioration on that street. And so would be my recommendation. I'd be fine with the asphalt, but my preference is generally with concrete.
How old is Central Park?
Mr. Lasher, can you help me out with that? It's before my time.
It's probably 20 years old, I would guess.
So it's getting close to end of life for asphalt anyway.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith?
have we heard from the developer if there's a strong preference from the developer?
The developer always prefers asphalt because it's less expensive. It's the city that has to kind of push a little bit to get the concrete.
Okay. I know sometimes we've heard from the developer that they didn't have a preference, but
Right.
okay.
But I have not spoken to them personally, nor had contact through the engineer, but it would be my assumption that they would prefer the asphalt.
Because I also, have a preference for the concrete, but I also am not sure how that difference is going to impact the specials per lot and what does that do to their, ability to sell those. So I want to make sure we don't put them in a bad position either.
And with the report that was given by GSI's engineer, it was kind of in that 25% range where the breakover is somewhat even as far as which way you go.
How many lots are in that division? Do you know? 20 maybe?
Yeah, probably 20, 25 without going through and counting each of the squares.
We'd be splitting 70,000 by 20 lots. That's a pretty good chunk to add onto each lot.
20? How are you counting those?
I'm just guesstimating. I didn't count.
I think it could be double that.
I'm coming up with 37 with a rough
I
count.
got 37.
Okay, so it's, okay. So that still adds $2,000 per lot to go with concrete.
And is that over 30 years or 20 years on the concrete? Do we know?
We usually go with 20.
Yeah, so concrete will do 20 years and asphalt will do 15 because of the life.
That's the bond service, right?
Yes, that's how long we'll do
Specials.
the bond specials. You're right, Mayor.
I certainly have a big preference for the concrete. I think it looks way better. I think it looks better longer. We don't have to maintenance. It's cheaper in the long term. So I guess I'm open to doing asphalt on the inner and, on one and concrete on the other, but I would certainly entertain concrete on both. I probably wouldn't be excited about asphalt on both.
I think you might want to consider the area. I don't know that there's any concrete in any of the development in that area at all. Is there?
We did concrete on the phase 2 of Central Park,
Did you?
third. Yes.
Okay. All right. I didn't remember that, but okay. Don't drive every street.
And could you speak to that? I mean, concreting both, you think that's just a road too far, or what are your thoughts on that?
I would love to concrete both, but it's kind of, comes down to really a council decision and preference on to how much money you want to spend and obligate citizens to. So I definitely have my preference towards concrete, but this is certainly this is where I'm giving it to you to let you guys make the tough decision on this one.
Yeah, this one is tough. I would prefer concrete myself, but it's such a large difference in price. That
Yeah, it's over $1,000 a year for the property owner. In specials? Or, no, that's not right.
Not per year.
Not per year.
No.
in their total.
Per the 20-year period,
Right.
yes.
Well, yeah,
For-
20-year period. That's right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to, I know we all sat through a presentation on the concrete versus asphalt, and I thought that break-even number was well over 30% for it to.
I think it was 25, but I'd have to go back and look at the notes. I don't remember.
So we're close to the line then, is that what we're saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're close. Wherever it is.
If it were equal, I almost even tended the concrete, even if the money would be equal, because I just think it looks so, it just looks better longer. And, you're talking about trying to keep, nice town and have everything look really good. If the cost is the same, I tend to be like, we should have it be looking good as, once asphalt starts breaking down, you have to start fixing it, whatnot. It just never is quite the same. I mean, that's my opinion. I'm open to whatever, but I do really favor concrete.
I think our thought was on giving you the choices, that we always have the discussion of concrete versus asphalt. What our opinion is always going to be, concrete. The only reason that we would feel comfortable with asphalt on this is because really the only people that are going to use this are the people going into Central Park Third. So you think about like Rock Springs, we've done over there, and they'll go in through all the different Rock Springs, and that's an 80-acre development over there. This is, I don't know, 20 acres maybe, and there's two entrances, this road and then the other road that actually go in there. They kind of circle around and come back out. The downside is that the first phase was asphalt because that was 10 years ago. Second phase is concrete. So then if you went back to asphalt, you've got concrete, asphalt, or asphalt, concrete, asphalt. And so, if you want to keep the aesthetics, it would be better to go with the concrete because that's already in phase 2. But again, that's, as Ann said, we're at that 25%. I think if I remember right, it's right around 30%, something like that, the difference. So it's close. And so we, felt that that was a decision that you would feel comfortable knowing what we know about asphalt versus concrete.
What's the expected price for houses in that area? I'm sorry if that wasn't loud enough.
They're going to be in the 250 would be low, probably 250 to 300. I don't know that they'll push 350. So I would say middle would be 300.
Okay, I would definitely go with concrete if they were higher end houses. If somebody's buying a $400,000 house, I wouldn't mind them paying a little extra specials on the road. Looks like Pearson's a low bidder. Are we okay with them?
Yes, they are a very good, reputable contractor. While they haven't really worked specifically with Bel Aire, they did perform the 37th Street road reconstruction from Woodlawn to Oliver. That was contracted directly through Wichita, and that was a good project.
They're also working on the North Junction right now.
Okay.
A lot of that work is Pearson's.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a very reputable company. It's a lot of, I believe it's the Cornejo brothers. After they sold their Cornejo construction, they started Pearson shortly thereafter. So they're very familiar with the area, good contractor, have a very good reputation.
Mr. Mayor,
Smith.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the concrete bid for the Prestwick Avenue paving improvements and the concrete bid for the Central Park Third Phase 3 paving improvements from Pearson Construction and the amount of $411,620.95, and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Dr. Schroeder. Any additional discussion? And this motion is for concrete for both sections, correct? I want to make sure I heard it right. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. All right.
And this is one contract?
Yes.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item Q, accepting a bid for water main improvements to serve Prestwick Avenue. 5 bids were received. Prestwick Avenue is being completed and Central Park Third Phase 3 moving forward. It is now time to finish the water main that will serve Prestwick Avenue. This main will run along Central Park Avenue and complete the connection to 53rd. I understand the cost of these improvements will be water fund expense. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mayor.
You mean city at large, right? Not the
Well,
neighborhood.
water fund, the city at large from the water fund, yes.
I'm translating.
You are correct. It is a city at large expense, but it's the water fund they'll pay for.
Yes, okay.
So what this does, this project will complete the loop and in the Central Park Third area. It's very important to have looping water mains so you keep the water fresh within the system. Otherwise, city staff has to come out and occasionally flush the lines to get the water moving through the system. This just allows the water to be served to customers from different directions.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
so is this project a direct result of this new addition?
Yes.
So can you help me understand why this is a water fund expense and not a more typical, what I think would be a special assessed expense for those lots?
Because it does help. It is a direct result of this petition and this subdivision, but it does serve the broader Central Park neighborhood in making that final looped connection between the water mains in that area. So it does not directly serve this phase of the development, but it indirectly does. And I believe Mr. Lasser can help out. I believe when this project was initially scoped, it was included that this water main would be finished out as this project went forward.
Will this also serve the lot to the east, or will that get a whole new system?
It really depends on how that lot is developed, but they can certainly pull off part of this main for the northern part of that project.
We're putting the concrete road in there. If they do that, they're going to break through that concrete. Is that right?
They would probably bore underneath the road for the service.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Mr. Elsa.
So the low bidder for this project was Dutton.
Correct.
And I guess I'm not as familiar with that. I recognize all the other companies. I don't recall seeing Dutton previously. Can you speak to them as a company? Or
Sure. They are a smaller contractor. They're not ones that we see in Bel Aire very often. They did perform the water and sewer installation work on one of the courtyards at Elk Creek projects, and they did a good job. There is kind of really no reason to deny them the bid. We've worked with them before. They've been a satisfactory contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid from Dutton at a cost not to exceed $27,323 for water main improvements to serve Prestwick Avenue, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Elsoff. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item R, contract engineering services, MKEC Engineering. The developer is ready to move forward with design of phase 2 of the villas at Prestwick. The developer worked with MKEC on first phase of the development and would like to work with them again for design. MKEC has submitted this agreement for council consideration. The cost of the project will be financed through a bond and spread as special assessments against the benefiting lots. Are there any questions for Ann or Jackie?
Just to be clear, this is for the design of the orange encircled improvements. The red circled improvements are phase 1, and that is already being constructed.
About 50% done, isn't it?
It's pretty close. They're filling up pretty quick.
And the developer did ask for this company, right?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I'll make a
Welch.
motion to approve a contract for engineering services with MKEC Engineering, Inc., Villas at Prestwick Addition in the amount of $123,243, and authorize the mayor to sign.
A motion for Mr. Welch and a second by Ms. Nguyen. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item S, so the developer is ready to start engineering design for Chapel Landing 4. The The developer worked with Garver to plat Chapel Landing and would like to work with them again for design. Garver has submitted an agreement for council consideration. The cost of the project will be financed through the bond and special assessments against the benefiting lots. Any questions for Ann or Jackie?
Mr. Mayor,
Dr. Schroeder?
I'll motion to approve a professional services agreement with Garver for engineering services, Chapel Landing Fourth, in the amount of $81,025 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item T, the developer has submitted the petitions for paving, sanitary sewer, sidewalk, and water distribution system improvements for lots in Chapel Landing and Chapel Landing Fourth. So Ann is here to explain this project as well as answer questions.
As I'm looking at this paving petition, and Ken, you're going to have to help me out. It says that there shall be constructed pavement on Hillcrest from the south line of Chapel Landing Fourth, and on the exhibit, we have Highland. So,
Oh, you're correct. That, we'll have to provide a revised sheet on that.
okay. Okay, thank you. It just jumped out at me as we're standing here. So Chapel Landing Fourth, everybody's kind of familiar with where Chapel Landing is. This is going to be the next phase as you move west. The developer replatted this area to make for slightly smaller lots. The final plat went through city council probably about a month ago. I can't remember specifically. This is bringing forth the petitions for the actual improvements to be constructed on this area. So we'll have a portion of Central Park that will be built, which is to the north end of the exhibit, and then Highland Street from a connection with the existing Highland Street in Bel Aire Heights, moving north to connect on with Central Park Avenue.
So this is actually west of what's kind of known as Iron Gate.
Correct.
So I was thinking,
Yes.
thank you.
It's confusing when you talk the two different names. It was
Yeah.
platted as Chapel Landing, but it's been built out as Iron Gate with the big sign in the front.
Okay.
I have a question. When we make this motion, do we need to specify that we amend the street name to be Highland instead of Hillcrest? Probably a Jackie question.
It's on the paving petition on the first page.
Prudent.
Mention that amendment in your motion.
I'll make a motion then to accept petitions for paving, sanitary sewer, sidewalk and water distribution system improvements, Chapel Landing and Chapel Landing Fourth on Highland Street.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Welch and second by Mr. Elsoff. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Professional services agreement with Garver for engineering service of Rock Spring Fourth. Rock Spring. So the developer is ready to move forward with engineering design for Rock Spring Fourth. Garver did the plat for Rock Spring Fourth, and the developer would like to work with them again. The developer asked Garver to prepare this agreement for engineering design and construction services. The costs associated with the project will be financed through a bond and special assessments against the benefiting lots. Any questions for Ann or Jackie? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve a professional services agreement with Garver for engineering services, Rock Spring Fourth, in the amount of $407,900 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second from Mr. Elsoff. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item V, as in victory. So the developer of Rock Springs Fourth has submitted petitions for sanitary sewer, stormwater drain, water distribution, and Phase 1 paving. And Ann is here to outline the improvements and answer questions.
So this will be for the entirety of Rock Spring Fourth Edition. We do have a revised petition for the water distribution system. I'm not sure, Jackie, if you could, do we need to accept the petition for the water distribution and then the revised petition for the water distribution? Oh, those are separate. Never mind. Okay,
Because that's item W.
never mind. Correct. Yep. Yeah, it was Rock Spring Third Phase 2 and then Rock Spring Fourth. So pardon me.
Okay.
It's been a day.
There's a lot of stuff here.
Yes, there is.
Almost making our way through the whole alphabet tonight.
Yeah,
Exactly.
only missing 3. Any discussion, questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'll motion to accept petitions for sanitary sewer, storm, water drain, and water distribution system and Phase 1 paving improvements, Rock Springs, Fourth Edition.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second by Mr. Welch. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item W. So the developer, again, this is Rock Springs Third now, submitted a revised petition for water system distribution for this area. The reason for the revised petition is to provide the future connection to Rock Spring Fourth. This is not included in the original petition. The cost of improvements will be financed through the bond and spread special assessments against the benefiting lots. Staff recommends accepting the petition and is here to explain the revision and answer questions.
So now that I have my wits about me again, when Rock Spring Third was originally platted, there was not a connection to Rock Spring Fourth to the east. When Rock Spring Fourth was platted, they revised one of the lots in Rock Spring Third. So this petition revises the original petition to match the final plat for Rock Spring Fourth and the revised area in Rock Spring Third that was replatted with Rock Spring Fourth. So this now provides an area of platted street right of way to connect the water main from Rock Spring Third to Rock Spring Fourth.
I'm glad I have access for water.
Yes.
It's kind of important.
Yeah.
Will that loop on up to 53rd again?
Not this one. It does currently connect to 53rd through Rock Spring Third Phase 1, but this will run out to Webb Road and eventually.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
So is this providing the water system to the entire Rock Springs Fourth Edition or just to lot 38?
No, yeah, come on up.
I'll jump in on this. Kinley with Garver, we're going to be doing the engineering design on it. We just did the contract. So what this is going to do, the connection that we're adding in with this revised petition, it'll cross connect Rock Spring and Third to Fourth. That will also connect over at Webb Road. There'll be a water main connection there. So what it'll do is it'll provide a cross connect for the area of Rock Spring Third. It'll allow that water to have a second connection to the east as well. So it will form a loop in that fashion where it'll go up to 53rd and over to Webb Road through this connection we're doing here. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. The thing that was standing out to me is when we look at, where the specials are going to be spread, it looks like it's only one lot in Rock Springs Fourth. And so I was trying to understand if that whole section is going to benefit. Is there only one lot that's being kind of singled out?
The only
there?
reason why that lot's paying is this petition is going to pay for the part that's on the Rock Springs Third side of there's a kind of a drainage ditch that runs between the two. So this connection is going to pay over Rock Springs Fourth. They'll pay for the part that matches up at the other end of it. So we're just kind of splitting the cost between the two additions.
It's a separate petition.
And Rock Springs, that lot 38 in Rock Springs Fourth, it's just kind of it's replacing one of the lots that was in there originally.
Okay.
So you're talking something less than 100 feet. of water line probably?
It's probably, it's actually the full depth of a lot, so it's probably 150 to 170 feet deep, but it's not a lot of water, but it's enough where we needed to make a revision to it.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to accept a revised petition for water distribution system improvements, Rock Springs 3rd Phase 2 and Rock Springs 4th Lot 38, Block 3.
Second.
Mr. Elson. I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Elson. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Do we need an executive session? I don't hear anybody jumping up for one, so we'll move on to item 14. So discussion and future issues. So our regularly scheduled workshop is set for April 13th at 6:30 p.m. So far, the agenda contains website updates and review, as well as introduction to our new agenda software program. That'll be exciting to learn. Additionally, we will talk about how sidewalk repairs are currently handled and possible options to improve this process. Is there anything else we need to add to a workshop for next Tuesday? Does this work for everybody? It's our regular schedule, so, okay. All right, very good. Move on to adjournment. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second by Mr. Welch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Is that clock right?